So, without further ado, we're going to go on to our next presenters, the two amazing brothers who've flown all the way from New Zealand. Are they Kiwis or are they Texans? You decide. But they're not twins. That is true. Anyway, please give a huge Spryker welcome to Colin and Jared. Bring it on.
Hello, howdy, kia ora, and hi. In that order. How are we all doing today? All right, been a big full day of agenda. What are we talking about today, Jared?
Well, luckily we've got two big screens over here, so maybe we could just read those.
That's quite a mouthful. Let's cut to the chase. ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance, goes by many different acronyms: CSR, SER. Triple bottom lines is probably one of my favorite references. Effectively, companies setting out to meet all of their stakeholder needs, not just outright chasing profitability, but looking at how they impact the community and the environment around them.
But today, we're actually just going to tell you our story and hopefully get a bit of entertainment as well as hopefully bring you along that journey with us.
All right, so let's tuck into it.
All right, well, my name's Jared, and we are so thankful to be here in Nashville. It actually just worked out perfectly. We're based in New Zealand, and when we heard the conference was going to be here, we were so thrilled because I actually have a sister that happens to live here. So this week I've been going by Uncle Jared instead of just regular Jared, so that's been really exciting since the pandemic.
Which makes me Uncle Colin, or as my nephew put it, Auntie Colin when he didn't like one of my shirts. But our background, I kind of come from more of a finance, mergers and acquisition background. Jared, he was kind of raised more in geophysics and mathematics. And you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with ESG at all? Well, nothing. We both took the leap of faith after he graduated uni to set out and try and do something a little bit different, try our hand at running our own business. And it's been a really meandering journey. It's full of several pivots and other cool buzzwords, but we're finally moving into stuff that's really making big difference and big impact, and ultimately working closely with Spryker to extend that reach.
And what we really wanted to do is bring some innovation to philanthropy, and what we always viewed as how can we contribute best to that cause. And we could always go, we can volunteer, we could even, whether it's support the bucket shaking efforts or, we could try to provide our skills over here. We always felt that the best way to volunteer and put your energy into that sector is to actually use wherever your skill set is the best and apply that at the right way. So if you're, a top-notch lawyer, does it make sense for you to be just picking up trash when you could be supporting in using your own law capacity?
So this led us to founding Raizor. So we'll give you a quick overview about that and talk about the story. So about Raizor, we're a technology company. Originally, we set out pioneering innovation for traditional philanthropy or charity. We've really honed into what we would call spending giving, but more on that later. And we've since started to expand our scope to looking at more environmental prosperity as well.
And so part of the reason we're up here today is we are the first of Spryker's clients in Asia Pacific.
Although I think Poolworks is shortly behind us. Where's Shannon?
Yeah, that's true.
There he is. And we're in the middle of implementing Spryker. We're targeting our go live in October with a series of pilots. Refine, improve, iterate, and I think it's a never-ending journey from there. But quick show of hands, who here could find New Zealand on a map? That's pretty good. Here's a hint for those of you who are a little stuck. It's there. A couple facts about New Zealand. For starters, there are 6 times more sheep than people. In fact, as you arrive in the airport, you're given 6 sheep just to make sure we maintain our quota.
What you might also know New Zealand for is it was the place where they filmed the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit as well. So it's known for its beautiful landscapes, a lot of rain, but rolling hills, mountains, green. It's beautiful out there.
New Zealand's often been a great proving ground for new technologies, new innovations. We have a really forward-thinking fintech sector. In fact, it harkens right back to we had the first ATMs in the world. I guess New Zealand represents what a good sample size would be of a first world country to trial something, test, learn, and then roll offshore. So, like many startup stories, we come from humble beginnings too. Often people start in a garage. This was our first location. We were the ones with the round door there.
Yeah, in fact, I'm pretty sure Spryker just set up an office right next door as well. So they're, of course, expanding quickly.
I heard they found space right next to the party tree for some reason. But shortly after this photo, Gandalf did approach us and said, Jared, Colin, you're going on an adventure. But no, we're just joking. Auckland's actually got a pretty beautiful cityscape. This is our harbor front, known as the City of Sails. Any given day, you see it just absolutely littered with beautiful sailboats, and it's really becoming an up-and-coming, amazing, fantastic place to live.
So it's definitely the City of Sails for its boats, not for its discounted prices. The cost of living there is through the roof.
So let's get into it, shall we? Where did Raizor start?
Now, our story really starts here. This has kind of been our motto from day one. Drink a beer and save the world. So it all started back when I was attending Texas Tech University. And I joined a fraternity, Alpha Tau Omega, and every fraternity and every sorority has their fundraising goals or a charity that they support that they're trying to raise some money for each year. And so for us, we had the Wounded Warrior Foundation. And so we had a fundraising chair and philanthropy chair, and his role was to activate the group and get us to try to raise some funds. And so the things that he came up with, we were doing bake sales, we were doing car washes, and the reality was none of us could bake, and we didn't particularly look good in a bikini trying to wash cars and raise any money. So unfortunately, both of those ideas tanked. So I signed up for the role, and I wanted to do things a little bit differently, try to utilize the skill set that we had. So I looked around the room. We had 150 guys, and what we were good at was drinking beer. So I went to our local bar and grill. I talked to the owner. I said, hey, I noticed on Tuesdays, there's no one in here. And I know that, I've been a wait staff before. You've got pretty low wage, and then you have to rely on tips. So what if I pack the place out on a slow night, and we bring all the business to you, and then we pay, have a great time, and then you give us 20% of our check back into a single payment that we can send off to Wounded Warrior Foundation. So he agreed, and all of a sudden, we were drinking a beer and saving the world. At least that's what we thought.
And so, meanwhile, I'm sitting in New Zealand, and Jared and I are Skyping back and forth, and he's telling me about this idea, and we thought, well, I know it was pretty manual, it was pretty one-to-one, it was direct-to-one charity, but there's got to be a business model here. Let's see if we can crack that and figure it out. But I think the starting problem was, well, we needed to understand the problem. So we looked at the landscape in New Zealand. What were we solving? Well, we spent our first couple years just intrinsically understanding the pain points of charity. And first and foremost, corporate giving is severely under pressure, and now more so than ever. Even pre-pandemic, if a company's got a bad year, it's often the first thing to go. Now you add to that rising costs of inputs, inflation's resource challenge, it's pretty low on the priority list.
Next up, like we said before, New Zealand is one of the first countries, the first country to do ATMs, but it's also quite a cashless society. So the original fundraising campaigns where you're on the corner shaking the bucket, hoping to get some cash donations, was wiped away with innovation. So now that's leaving a hole in the charity's typical fundraising structure.
And this may not sound like a big deal, but we phased out checks last year. And charities used to be able to rely on an older demographic who were very responsive to a direct mail campaign, usually by cutting a check and sending it back out. Take the check medium away, and now they were tasked with educating them to become online donors. This was a tall order.
Next, it was a cut through to the younger demographic. So there's this younger group, this Gen Z, that they just want to pour their heart out and actually get behind a cause. They're more than happy to like or share something. They're more than happy to put a banner around their profile picture on social media. But as soon as you ask them for money, they run away. So how do we extract funds out of people that are actually quite motivated by a cause?
And lastly, they were suffering from a rising cost base to deliver the same output. Volunteerism was absolutely dropping off a cliff. So it's more expensive, and cash is severely under pressure. How do we bring some innovation? What do we need to change?
So introducing spend and giving. So the overall concept of spend and giving, similar to back when we were drinking beer and saving the world, was if I can convince a group of people to shop here or buy this instead of over here, then there's value in that. There's value, and I can get some sort of a commission based on that change in customer behavior. And I can redirect that commission to a cause of the choice of that individual. So that's the theory of spend and giving.
This was coming back really strongly in our focus grouping too. Buying sponsored products or branded products that support charity was people's favorite way to support. Far beyond volunteerism, far beyond bake sales, far beyond picking up trash. Our first foray into spending giving was really clever card capture technology on payment rails using tokenized data. It worked really seamlessly. It was a cool customer experience. But we very quickly got lumped into general loyalty providers, and that space was deeply entrenched in New Zealand. It was a really big ask for us to acquire meaningful retailers and to raise enough awareness. So after kind of stepping back and realizing that banging our head against this wall is too hard, I think it's time to pivot.
So we were so focused on trying to get each single merchant to sign up with this original card technology. And we were finding that quite difficult. So we thought, why don't we just go one step up technology supply chain, and let's actually go and have a conversation with a bank. And so we launched New Zealand's first charitable credit card. And it's called the SBS Pink Ribbon Visa. We launched it in partnership with the Breast Cancer Foundation of New Zealand. And we absolutely love this product because the bank donates every single time you swipe the card, as well as you don't forego your personal rewards. You still receive cash back as you normally would. But if you want to, you can choose to donate some, half, most, or all of that cash back reward as well. So what we were finding, what was quite fascinating about this, is people were getting the card for the right reason. People were getting the card and donating on average 60% of their cash back rewards. So it quickly became what was a good charitable fundraiser per card to a great charitable fundraiser per card, which is extremely important in New Zealand, quite a small limited market. We need to make sure that if we can make a credit card actually be a significant fundraiser in a small market like New Zealand, we could expand on this and grow it quite rapidly in a bigger market.
And engagement with customers has been a common theme, particularly during development. And one recurring point that kept coming back to us was, wow, look how pink it is. And they were right. So we figured out how to start capturing small but frequent transactions to support charity. It really epitomized our vision of make giving easy. But then we started looking at a bigger end of town. What about larger purchases, maybe less frequent, of supporting charity? We were in the market understanding pain points from a lot of these organizations, and one of them came back to us and said, hey, look, we're drowning in the general rising tide of insurance costs. It's causing us to stop performing certain activities with some of our members. Some of our sites are closing down because they just can't insure it, or we're significantly underinsured. You guys are out in the market. Can you come up with something? And given the can-do attitude that we'd had so far of we'll never know until we try, we tried. And we scanned the market and came up with the absolute right partner, shared the same values and vision as us, Crombie Lockwood, who here locally you wouldn't know their parent company, Gallagher Group. Now, we launched this program initially with one charity that was remitting so much value back to the national organization. It was saving them money. It was improved best leading cover that we felt we had to figure out how to panel beat this and extend this out to further charities, and then one step further to their supporters to then remit value back to the organization every year. We panel beat this into what we call Insurance for Good, and we launched it during one of the world's longest, strictest, toughest, most severe lockdowns. But from our couch, we quickly became Crombie Lockwood's fastest growing new business channel, raising tens of thousands initially, which are now annually recurring revenue for charities that they can actually budget and bank every year. So even though New Zealand phased out checks, we're bringing them back, baby. And we clearly like oversized financial products. So here we are with our giant check, bigger smiles. It was fun to connect the parties, the charities, and remind them why they're signing up to this.
So through this process, we now had a credit card in the market, and we also have an insurance product in the market. So at this point, we're really getting good at selling very non-sexy products. So that was kind of our niche. So we were learning that we could actually use this charitable lens, and we could drive some good outcomes, get in front of people, have someone actually consider something and make a decision on it, and try to sell a product that's traditionally quite difficult. So we started expanding our relationship with SBS Bank. This is the bank we did the credit card with. And there's a few things that you need to know about SBS. For starters, they're a mutual, so they're actually owned by the customers. So if you're a customer, you're kind of like a shareholder, effectively. And so they're always looking for ways to remit value back to the customers in different, well, hopefully in a way that's different from all the other mutuals so they can stand out.
So their charter makes them inherently triple bottom line focused. They've got to be more than profit. They're there for purpose. You can see right by their logo, they try to make that statement by being a bank with a heart. So we pitched quite a radical idea. We said, well, hey, we're kind of dabbling in the spending giving area. What if we created an ecosystem that you could give back to your members where every purchase supports a cause they care about, not just something you think they care about? We felt like it delivered on their why, aka Simon Sinek's bit of being a bank with a heart. And customer acquisition and cross-selling. So this marketplace, by expanding it to being a multi-vendor marketplace, allowing a lot of different merchants to be putting their products on here, we can actually capture people and bring them into this ecosystem that originally were maybe interested in buying something else, but now that they're captured as a member, we can slowly grow them into potentially an SBS Bank member. And then using these charity benefactors as effectively local influencers who are now reaching out to their audience, and sometimes we're talking very localized down to a rugby club or perhaps something much larger like a national organization, really spreading the message for good because they stand to benefit.
And then lastly, with a bit of a stale banking sector, we were trying to bring and drive a point of differentiation. So they're standing up as the bank with a heart. Let's help them deliver on that, and let's help them stand out in the market and be a bit different from every other bank.
And then more lastly, cross-selling and new customer acquisition.
Of course.
So they agreed. We took them on as a shareholder. We got a little bit of financial wind in our sails. And then much like we've seen often with sales team way ahead of the dev team, we had to figure out how are we going to do this?
So now we go to our journey to Spryker. So we had pitched this big vision. Now we had to figure out how do we actually implement this. And it started with, we just started scanning the market. We actually didn't even know what we were necessarily looking for. We knew we were looking for some form of an e-commerce platform. We knew it had to be customizable because we were trying to also promote services as well as products. We also had this digital wallet piece that needed to generate some form of a rebate stored against an account donated to a charity. So it was a little bit more complicated than just going and getting something off the shelf that already exists. So as we were starting to have these conversations with consultants and other potential implementation partners, we finally started to understand even the vocabulary so that we could have a more direct search. We finally learned multi-vendor marketplace, and then once we did that, it started putting us into the direction of where all the market players were, which, like everyone else has mentioned, pointed us to the Gartner report. So that gave us a lot of confidence in the fact that Spryker is a lot different than these other players. So we wanted to have a conversation with them and hear it directly from them. So some of the strengths that really worked for us is we're working with a bank. So while we want an MVP approach, we can't really have an MVP in its purest sense. It actually has to be reasonably sophisticated because we're selling it into the bank's customers, so it has to be quite robust. We also wanted something, we're not planning on stopping with just the bank. We're planning to replicate this marketplace as we start hopefully mastering it with this channel. So we needed something that was replicable and scalable and something that we could scale outside of just New Zealand. So Spryker was a perfect fit for that. It's pretty impressive, actually, its ability to replicate the storefront and still maintain the same database. And then, what was the other one?
That led us to developing Shop to Give.
Yeah.
You'll notice with a lot of our products, We're very literal. We just get to the point. And this is something that we'd worked on with the bank. Obviously captures what our mission statement is here. And here are some of the earlier UIs that we developed. You'll notice this takes a very Spryker out-of-the-box approach. That's kind of our step towards MVP before iterating and mastering and growing out and expanding the service proposition.
So this is our MVP. We do have several stages and iterations of where we're hoping to be. And to drive more value for the bank, the marketplace starts to make sense because you can introduce products like the buy now, pay later. You could also have increased rewards to try to drive getting more people signing up to their credit cards. So there's a lot of natural synergies with the banking partner. And of course, once again, bringing people in by promoting products that aren't, that are maybe more sexy than a banking product, get you to the marketplace and then start cross-selling or promoting the banking product there to a softer audience.
So our next steps and goals are pretty straightforward. All eyes are on development at the moment. We're targeting go live in August, and we'll be running with a series of pilots with smaller bank audiences, continually refining, gauging customer feedback.
Next, we just focus on delivering our pitch that we gave to SBS Bank. We want to make sure we can tick every one of those points and make them a very happy and successful channel and partner for us.
But importantly, becoming better marketplace operators. This is our chance to test, learn, improve. And so just like the humble ATM, our eyes are set offshore to, once we learn, refine, and test this pilot in New Zealand, we're looking for channel partners to take this right back to the U.S. So that's our story, and we'll be happy to talk, mix, and mingle with you guys afterwards during some of the breakout sessions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
So we've probably got time for one or two very quick questions. Have anybody got a question? If not, I'd like to I think what a fantastic presentation, a fantastic story, and dynamic duo.
That's
wonderful.
the one.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jared.
guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers, everybody.